All right, so we got to talk about Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, this is kind of an interesting release. It is the opposite of what we saw with Avowed, where Avowed it was very positively reviewed, but very, very low sales numbers. This is quite the opposite, very high sales numbers and extremely mixed reviews on Steam. So, interesting situation, kind of the same problem in a different wrapper, though, with these AAA companies. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into the details. And before we do, the gameplay today is UT 2004. Now, I don't have a link for this because, well, they basically memory hold this game. So unless you already have it on Steam, you can't buy it. But if you don't own it yet, at least you can enjoy some of the gameplay footage here and, relive the old days. So let's just jump right in and talk about Monster Hunter Wilds. So you can see here, all reviews very mixed. 59% of the 73,504 user reviews for this game are positive. And if we go into the details here and kind of look at some of the more appropriate reviews, so all Steam purchases only, you can see it switches to mostly positive. It goes up to 70 from 68%. And the big jump is this over 10 hours. If you've played it for over 10 hours, it goes from 70 to 79%. So that's the big jump. Which kind of makes sense because if you look through these reviews, it's all about the optimization. It's all about how poorly optimized this game was. There are a few other reviews related to like gameplay and polish and things like that. Things that they don't think that this title matches up to other Monster Hunter titles too. But by and large, it's all about optimization. It's all about the fact that it runs like garbage on a lot of platforms, on a lot of hardware, and people are not happy about it. So if you've been able to play it 10 hours, then you're probably not running into those optimization issues. You probably have hardware that can handle this game just fine, and so you're going to give it a good review because from what I can tell, overall, it's a lot of fun, and people are enjoying the game if and when they can play it, but like I said, those optimization issues are biting a lot of people right now. And aside from that, though, if you go back here to the verified Steam purchases, that jumped up that 2%. That's a little fishy to me. Now, that could mean that it could just be a fact of, unverified Steam purchasers or going from other platforms to review this game here and decided that it's not a good game and they wanted to voice that opinion somewhere and Steam was the place. It could also be, I guess, people got a Steam key from somewhere else and decided to try the game because if they got an outside Steam key, if they got it for free or something like that and reviewed it negatively, that could be it too. Otherwise, it's shenanigans. It could be shenanigans. It could be like, a bunch of competitors or people that are not happy with, Monster Hunter Wilds or Capcom in general coming on here to review bomb it, but it's only affected at 2%. So if they tried to review bomb it, it didn't work very well. And Steam is the kind of platform that you can just filter that stuff right out. I think the accurate estimation here is over an hour. Again, that goes up to 72%. But I would say that that's a good middle of the road approach. I think that that's probably an accurate review across the board. But like I said, if you're able to run it, then you're probably going to enjoy it. And if you're not able to run it, you're going to be very frustrated about the optimization problems with this game. And that is a common problem in AAA these days. That's a big issue, and it needs to be solved. And that's kind of where I bring Avowed into this because they're kind of two sides to the same coin. There is the aspect of not being in touch with your audience and making a game that people are not interested in playing, which is the Avowed side. And then there's the side where Capcom finds itself, where you're making a game that people would enjoy playing, but you don't leave it in the cooker long enough to be optimized, to have that polish on it, to make sure that it's going to run on the vast majority of hardware out of the box. And you end up with this situation. Now, the accountants in Capcom probably don't care because this game made a lot of sales. I don't see any returns happening, or at least not enough to make any difference, because you're just seeing like crazy numbers here, and it's not going to matter unless most of these people return the game because it's not optimized and they'll wait for a patch. But that would certainly send a message. I just don't see it happening. But yeah, you can see like average of about 3 million sales estimated. And, the user counts 1.3, almost 1.4 million at peak simultaneous users. And you can look at the valleys here are like 6 and 700,000, dropping down to 5s and even down to 4s here. But those peaks, they're all still above 1 million. Now it's gonna drop off. It has been dropping off for a while since launch here. Launch was on Friday, and then the weekend had some peak numbers, and then it started to drop off again. Now this weekend you could see those peak numbers go back up. I don't see it passing that 1.384 million from this past weekend, but it certainly could. I just don't see it as very likely because you're already a week in, and the gameplay starts to spread out and people start moving on to other things and coming back and playing as they can. So it may or may not pick up the steam because, again, something I talked about a while ago and I probably haven't talked about in a while is AAA has the tendency of, especially like an RPG, of all the users getting it launch day, playing the crap out of it that weekend, and then starting to peter off, and that drops off pretty precipitously. Whereas with an indie game, your reach is smaller as an indie developer, or even a AA developer, and it can catch on with a larger group of players, and they could jump on well into the game's launch cycle and then raise those numbers back up. There's a better chance of getting resurgences in AA and especially indie. So you're going to see those numbers go up and down a lot more with indies, but where with AAA, you've already reached your target audience, or your target audience already knows that this game is out, and the people that were going to buy it, chances are they already bought it, launch day. They already had it in their hands, and they were playing it. So these are basically your ideal numbers, and then they drop off, and that's pretty much how AAA works for the most part. So again, I mean, phenomenal numbers, excellent amount of sales, and not surprising because it is Monster Hunter. It's a very well-established franchise. It's got a lot of people that are very much in love with this kind of game, and they're going to come back title after title after title, and they've built up a very dedicated audience. So, it is well deserved, and it's not surprising to see these kind of sales numbers, but it is disappointing to see that there's so many optimization issues, and that's something Capcom usually doesn't have a problem with, not quite like this, but, here we are, and I don't know, I guess they need to re-examine things and kind of go back to the drawing board and say, maybe we need to spend more time on optimization, maybe we need to, reinforce that polish phase to make sure that these games come out perfect as possible on launch day and not have to rely on day one patches and post-launch patches to try and fix things post-launch like that. But yeah, it is a problem. It's a problem with a lot of different AAA titles, and sometimes it can work out okay, like No Man's Sky. I would have to say that No Man's Sky, they redeemed themselves, but that is the exception of the case. That's not something to plan your future on, certainly. And Capcom especially, I mean, Capcom's been around since the days where there was no internet connection, where you put your game on a cartridge, on a chip in a cartridge, and whatever was on that cart is what you get. There is no fixing it after launch. There is no fixing it after it gets to the store. And so they need to go back to that. And a lot of other AAA companies need to go back to that methodology, that mentality where it has to be perfect before launch. It has to be like as perfect as it can be, and AAA should be held to a higher standard, in my opinion. I mean, I can see it with an indie developer, especially like a small team, because you just don't have the resources. But we're talking about Capcom here. We're talking about, a major AAA developer, a major AAA publisher with vast amounts of resources, and they can't put some money and time into making sure that this game comes out perfect. Yeah, that's an issue, but it is what it is, and it is a state of AAA, and I hope that it changes, but I don't see it changing anytime soon. So that's what I got for you guys, and that is Monster Hunter Wilds. It is a very successful launch with a very questionable user review. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these kind of things, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.